1. I have to preface that I'm an atheist. I am highly skeptical of the supernatural and paranormal, and think there are natural explanations. But that isn't to say I'm not open-minded. Even I can admit a lot of strange things have been happening around the house lately. I can bust out a list of possible explanations, but part of me just wants to leave it as is. It's entertaining and makes life interesting. And hell, maybe I'm wrong, maybe there is something after death, and science just hasn't caught up to how it works. But here is all that has happened lately. Firstly, my stepfather had fallen very sick from type 1 diabetes and liver problems. His own father had died a few years prior, and that is when my stepdad started showing symptoms, and later was diagnosed. I think the heartache and pain of his own father's passing and mother having health problems, along with a lot of other horrible things happening to him, caused him to give up on life. I don't blame the guy. Life is hard, and he was always a great dad and role model. Much love and respect for the man, but that is the story so far. Now for the strangeness. One day, my stepdad, during his last few weeks of life, had taken some sleep medicine, trazodone, I think, and it really messed him up. He was super out of it, hazy, foggy-brained, and balance issues, which he also had naturally from the nerve damage to his legs, so he'd fall a lot. Heartbreaking to see. He went to lay down in one of the rooms, and he was in very poor shape, and my mother was in distress. I did what I could to comfort her and be strong, but I broke down too. He was very sick and suffering immensely. Diabetes had absolutely shredded through his body. He was very frail and weak. We could all tell his time was approaching, but while we were in the room helping him, I saw a strange white mist just next to the bedside table, out of the corner of my eye. It was really strange. Not soon after, about a week or so, he passed, but I think part of him had already passed on around that time. Maybe it was a portal or a spirit to comfort him. Again, open-minded but highly skeptical. I also noticed that one of the doors in that same room, one to the bathroom, was having issues closing. Thought nothing of it, then my mother complained of both of her doors having problems closing. I went to investigate one day and noticed that one of the bars to the top hinge of the bathroom door was completely gone, missing. I understand over time they may weasel their way out while opening and closing doors as a possible explanation, but I mean, come on. You would have heard it, or noticed issues with the door long before it came out. And it would be on the floor if it had fallen. Nothing. Nowhere to be seen, just gone. Pretty weird. Also, our outdoor shed doors were wide open, and one of the doors was slamming against the side with the wind pushing it. We locked it, so this shouldn't be a thing, but who knows? Maybe we forgot, and thought we did, but it's very unlikely. This one has me scratching my head. I lock my door so no one surprises me, working on a project or have headphones on, and we also have a house cat. Now, locking one's door and closing it should naturally grant you a feeling of safety and peace of mind. No one should be able to get in, right? Well, lately the house cat has become increasingly clingy because one less person in the house to spend time with. Has been coming to me more often, and so he sometimes bumps the door and tries to get in. He has learned to open doors by turning doorknobs, but I had mine locked, and by some fluke of nature he was able to get in not only once but twice. I literally have a picture of my door wide open and the doorknob locked in place still. Really freaky. So with all this strangeness, I decided to take my microphone and set it up in my room. And in the room my stepdad passed away. And of course, as soon as you go looking for things, nothing happens. And I just feel silly talking to myself in a dark, empty room, pretending spirits or my deceased father is still hanging around, but again, I am open-minded, but so far nothing tangible. Just a lot of random weird things around the house that can probably be explained naturally. But again, it's fun to entertain the thought that it may be something more. 2. This was told me by the guy who experienced it, and it happened in the years after 9/11, about a year or so from what I can recall. And I never forgot it, so I want to share it. So this guy had moved to New York City for a job, and found a beautiful brick walk-up that was owned by an old woman who lived a few miles away from there in the Brooklyn area and was looking to rent it out. She was very sweet and said that she hadn't been ready to rent it out for some time, but felt she could now, and in meeting with him she felt he would be a great fit. He had a roommate who was a friend as well move in with him, and it was a great arrangement since this friend was gone 90% of the time because he traveled for his work and was usually gone for long periods of time. He let his friend who traveled have the bedroom and slept on the futon. He believed at the time that his friend was single, so there would be little to worry about. And when he first got the apartment, the old lady just left behind a long warm scarf on the wall and a basket with some shoes in the closet. The traveling roommate never specified if he was single or not, and one morning, while he was deep asleep, he heard the front door unlock, open and close, then relock. Then whoever it was went into traveling roommate's room and shut the door. This went on for some time, where someone would come home late at night, go in the bedroom and shut the door. The things that went on just seemed like normal things you'd expect when someone else is living with you. They had opposition sleep schedules, so dude really wasn't paying that much attention, as he assumed it was his roommate. He would hear the shower turn on, doors open and close, pots and pans in the shared kitchen make noise, and he assumed his roommate was cooking himself food. And thought he had a great roommate because he always seems to clean up after himself, and the pots and pans would be right back where they were and clean. It didn't even look like anyone besides the guy had been in the kitchen. He was watching TV one day and actually caught sight of the young woman who he assumed was traveling roommate's girlfriend. He said she was young and pretty and about the right age to be roomie's girlfriend. She hung up her scarf in the hallway and went into the bedroom like she's totally comfortable and lived there too. He said she was on the quiet side but smiled at him and made herself scarce. Mostly again just doing all the things you'd expect to hear a roommate doing. For some reason, when ever traveling roomie was home on break between jobs, it came to the attention of original roomie that he was a pig, didn't clean up after himself and left things everywhere. And eventually, after confronting him on this, he said, "Your girlfriend seems to do a pretty good job cleaning up after you all the time." He said, "What are you talking about? I don't have a girlfriend." "Well, some girl's been coming in. She must have your keys. She's been sleeping in your room and showering here." Traveling roomie didn't know what he was talking about, and just to be safe, they agreed to change the locks on the house and have new keys. A few weeks later, she was back again, showering, cooking, or at least making sounds like someone was in the kitchen, as if they were doing something, and the scarf on the hallway hanger would occasionally disappear and then show up again. So clearly this woman didn't get the picture. The old lady owner called to ask how things were going, and let him know to just call if he needed anything for the place. Being his landlord and all, he just assumed she was being really nice, and he felt lucky to have found the place, and didn't want to complain to her about this. After a while, both the roomies talked and figured out that they didn't know who this woman was and how she was getting in. She seemed nice, but they knew neither one of them knew her. After having tried to secure the place and nothing worked, traveling roomie had to leave for a month, so he would be gone, and Guy decided he was going to call the landlord and ask her what to do about their beautiful intruder. The old woman was shaken when he described her. She explained that the apartment was originally her daughter's, who had been killed while she was out around 9/11. I think it was a subway incident, not sure, where some other people had died too. She explained that her daughter had lived there alone when she was alive, and the scarf and basket of shoes she left behind were hers. She said when she was cleaning out her daughter's place, that she couldn't find the scarf and basket of shoes, and thought she had gotten everything out. He moved out and did not renew the lease, and told the traveling roommate later about it, even though he never actually got to see her. The mother believed that her daughter was still living her life, obviously in her little apartment, which she loved when she was alive, and was coming and going because that was her favorite scarf. 3. We were on Block Island for some kind of academic talk that my stepmother was giving at a conference. It wasn't what young teenaged me would consider a fun trip. The weather was dreary, and most of the time I was just sitting bored in the hotel room reading. At some point over the course of the weekend, my dad said he was going to go on a walk and left me there with my book. I thought, thinking nothing of it. A while later, he bolted back into the hotel room and shut the door. There was something about the speed at which he did so, and the look on his face that alerted me to something being up. I asked him what happened, and he shook his head and said nothing, then crossed to the window and twitched the curtains aside to stare down towards the beach. He looked very bothered and wasn't the type to give details if he didn't want to, so I left it alone and soon forgot all about it. Fast forward till after the conference, when we were off of Block Island and safe at home. My dad told my stepmother and myself he had something to tell us that's been freaking him out. He's not the scary story type, he's not spiritual, he's not easily frightened. He is an academic through and through, logical to a fault. I knew he was serious and seriously scared, because he didn't even want to tell us it happened until we were home. Anyway, the story was this. He had walked down to the sandy cliff edge where the land dropped off a little towards the beach, and he had been looking around at all the old houses that ran along that way. He liked old houses, so that was pretty normal. At some point, he noticed one of the houses was decrepit and abandoned, and he got curious. He picked his way down the dune cliffs and made his way towards the house. He said the wall had a huge hole in it, and he could see that the inside was pretty smashed up as well. He got closer and poked his head into the hole to check out the interior. He said he had just enough time for his eyes to adjust to the light and to notice that the ceiling of the room had collapsed in and he could see straight up into the second story. That's when he said movement on the opposite wall caught his attention. He shifted his gaze and saw what he could only describe as the shape of a large man, but with no legs, climbing hand over hand up the wall into the shadows of the second floor. He was so startled he leapt back away from the house, and was so deeply, immediately chilled that he ran all the way back to the hotel. He finished the story every time he told it from then on by saying, "I'm not saying it was supernatural. I'm just saying I have zero rational explanation for what the hell I saw, and I never want to go back to that island again." It really scared him, and over the years since then, we've tried to brainstorm logical explanations. The best we've gotten is maybe a homeless amputee. Our other best guess is a huge bat. He continues to insist that whatever it was huge and way stronger and better at climbing than any human should be. The whole time we were on that island, I hated it. Not just for the dreary weather, but because it really did feel weird. Maybe I am attributing more eerie things to the memory now, but that's how it seems. I'm wondering if anyone else in the area has any stories or experiences or opinions on Block Island. Any local cryptids I should be aware of. 4. When I was a kid, my nana lived in an old historical house built sometime around the 1920s on a street called Elgin. It was a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-story house that was painted red with white trim. As I'm researching this home some 15+ years later from the last time I was there, I have learned that the home is considered a historical in its city, and the woman who owned it was an Oklahoma historical figure. For privacy reasons, I will leave out details on the original owner and other information on the home, so that the property can stay protected. If you figure it out, don't be an ass and go there. It's boarded up anyways. Continuing on. When my nana rented the home, she was living with her then boyfriend, her youngest daughter, my aunt, and several pets. The only 2 of which I can recall being a pug named Pugsley, a grey cat called Chinley, and a Siamese cat called Tatterbug. Tatterbug was a jerk, but I adored him nonetheless. There, of course, were several other pets, but my memory is hazy. Tatterbug is the only one that I know of, who is a big part of the happenings of the Elgin house. I don't remember the layout of the inside of the house much, but I remember we entered through the back door usually, and there was a staircase between the kitchen and dining area that led upstairs. Past the dining room was a large living room with a bay window and the front door. The room was divided in half, with an old double door in the center that led to the other side of the living room, and a hallway leading to my aunt's room and a bathroom, I believe. I have no memory of what was upstairs save for the master bedroom closet that spanned the length of the entire upstairs area. I think there may have been a small office upstairs because I feel as though my Nana's boyfriend at the time kept war memorabilia from his father in a room upstairs. That is the best I can describe the interior. First, I would like to say that an experience widely felt by many of my family members was, if you went up the stairs, you would feel hands pushing you up. The staircase is an L shape, so us kids would normally grab something to sit on and slide down on the two sections, but any time we walked up, it was like two hands were pressing on our shoulder blades, ushering us. When asking my older brother what he recalled from the home, he said, "Elgin never did anything to me. It seemed to like me, you and our cousin for some reason." Shifting focus to my aunt, who lived there at the time. She said that her cat, Chin-Li, seemed possessed while they lived there and that she perched on the ledge till she was so exhausted she'd fall asleep and fall off. She lost so much weight. Though I believe Chin-Li made it to the next house just fine and lived a happy rest of her life. Tatterbug was also subjected to whatever was in the home tormenting him. As a kid, I hated Tatterbug because he was a mean little guy, but later in life I realized he was a sweet cat, and that house may have provoked him more than I thought. Before I get to Tatterbug's tale, I feel that it's worth mentioning a few more stories. Like the time my aunt one day called her mom, my Nana, hysterical, and said that someone was bouncing a bowling ball upstairs. Of course, when my Nana got home, that was exactly what it sounded like. A bowling bag being dropped from the top floor, though they never knew what caused it. At some point, my Nana and her boyfriend stopped sleeping upstairs. I don't know how soon that happened, but I know that none of my memories have them downstairs. In the second half of the living room, either their bed or a couch was against the double doors, so that they kept them shut and locked and slept there. I remember watching Jeepers Creepers in that house and feeling dread in my stomach, like something was watching me. My cousins would also watch movies with me there, and more often than not, you could find us playing around outside in the dirt. However, one day, my twin cousins were being babysat by my Nana's boyfriend when they wanted to play hide-and-seek. It would take a while to find them, though. My Nana's boyfriend was freaking out, and when Nana got home, the girls had been hiding for a while, and the one place they hadn't thought the twins would be is where they found them. The twins were sitting in the very back of that long, dark closet for God knows how long. There was also an instance where the twins managed to climb on the roof from the window at the top of the stairs when no one was looking. But we are unsure whether or not this has anything to do with the Elgin house or childish curiosity. To finish this story, I'll finally tell you about Tatterbug and his experience. Like I mentioned before, Tatterbug was a Siamese cat with the most beautiful blue eyes and one hell of a temper. He was fiercely loyal to my Nana and was often present in the downstairs sleeping area. One day, my Nana and her boyfriend were watching TV and hanging out when Tatterbug starts to puff up and starts freaking out. Suddenly, he bolts from the room, and they hear a thump in the other part of the living room. When they go to check on what happened, my Nana told me that there had been a framed picture of her boyfriend's dad on the fireplace mantel that now sat face down in the middle of the floor with Tatterbug on top, holding it down. He had been losing it over this picture, but when my Nana managed to get him off, they turned the frame over to reveal no damage, not a single crack on the glass of the frame. Despite it practically flying across the room and hitting the floor, it had zero damage. I wonder if they put the photo back or if they left it off the mantel. I'm not sure. What I do know is that there is undoubtedly more that happened in the Elgin house. I just haven't had the chance to get more information. The house is boarded up now, and I think my Nana was the last person to live in it. Despite being declared a historical home the last I saw it, there have seemingly been no efforts in reconstruction. So what do you think? Perhaps a poltergeist? Or maybe the spirit of the man who fought in a war, whose memorabilia resided in the home? I'm not sure, but what I do know is that whatever it was, I hope it isn't there still. 5. So, some months ago, I was looking for a watch that my grandmother had gifted me. I remember putting it in my jewelry box. A couple of days later, I couldn't find it. I thought maybe I had put it somewhere else, but that wasn't the case. I looked in the whole room, but couldn't find it. Like 2 months passed, and my grandma had asked me about the watch. I told her that I needed to have it adjusted because it didn't fit me. She told me she could fix it for me, and told me to go look for it, but I didn't know where it was, and asked her if by any chance could she have it, but she told me no. After that, I cleaned my room. I cleaned my room and closet every Sunday, again hoping to find it. I asked my partner for help. We looked absolutely everywhere, especially the closet, because that's where I always put stuff and forget about it later. But we didn't find absolutely anything. I thought to myself that I was gonna never find that watch and forgot about it. A month passed. Random day, I opened the closet to look for a charger, and there it was. The watch literally right in front of my eyes. I quickly called my partner and showed her. She asked me where it was, and I explained to her. I asked her if she had anything to do with it, like maybe she was playing a prank on me, but she told me no. After that, I honestly didn't give it much thought, and thought I was crazy. Some days ago, I think it was Saturday, my partner's AirPods went missing. We looked on the bed, under the pillows and blankets, in the drawers, the vanity, all of my full and empty purses. We also looked at her purse, and they were nowhere to be found. My girlfriend remembered she could find them with Find My, and it said she had left them at work. Later, she was looking for something else in her purse, and I was on my phone when we both looked up, and the headphones were right in the middle of the bed. I asked her if she had found them, and she swore she hadn't and asked me if I put them there. This time she thought I was playing a prank on her, but I wasn't. She told me, "What if there's a ghost?" Which for some reason made me think of some edibles that went missing some months ago, which were in my closet. No, my girlfriend didn't eat them. She gets sick from them. And I have also had some jewelry or miscellaneous stuff missing, but I didn't think of it until now. Me and my girlfriend believe heavily in ghosts, especially since I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, ever since I was little, but nobody believed me. For example, some nights when I close my eyes, I can feel something above me, but it's taking pictures of me, and I can see the flash. But when I wake up, there's nothing there. This also happens to my girlfriend. When I go to sleep, I can feel something sit by my feet and just stare at me. There was a night where something was choking me. And also, I've always had a presence around me ever since I was little, but I have never felt anything malignant about this one. So, is there a ghost, or are we just crazy? Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Paranormal Stories, episode 365. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, hit that like button. If you want early access to these videos, then support me on my Patreon, which is linked in the description, as is the link to the Hellfreezer merchandise store on Teespring. And if you liked today's video, then leave a tip. You can do that by clicking on the heart with the $sign in the middle, just underneath the video. You don't have to, but I do appreciate it. Okay, no other business today, so let's move right along to the question and answer of the day. And today's question comes from Gemwolf. Appropriate for today's video, I think. What was the creepiest, oddest thing you've seen while staying at a different place other than at home? This is unfortunately one of those questions I cannot answer personally myself because I have rarely stayed other places other than my home. I remember staying in my grandmother's house once. I remember not really being able to sleep that well because it wasn't home. That's about it. But why don't you guys share any stories you're comfortable sharing in a comment below. And before we go, we'll have the answer of the day from a previous video. And this question is in relation to who enjoys pickles when they have fast food and such. And today's answer comes from Melissa and D. I love pickles, and Mam's perk was always taking the pickles out of my kids' burger for them. In New Zealand, we often get them from McD's, a Kiwi burger, that has egg and beetroot on it. Thank you very much for your answer, Melissa. And with that, I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.